Hey guys, tonight we wake up in ancient China, where the morning mist hangs over endless rice fields, roosters announce the dawn long before you're ready, and every sound reminds you that you've wandered into a world without electricity, running water, supermarkets, or a comfortable mattress. It may sound peaceful at first, but don't get too comfortable, because you probably won't survive this. Not because a dragon swoops down from the mountains, or because a kung fu master challenges you to a duel, but because ordinary daily life here is astonishingly difficult. The things you barely notice in your modern routine, clean drinking water, soft shoes, medicine, and even a simple hot shower, are luxuries beyond imagination. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, leave a comment telling me your location and your local time. It's always fascinating to see where in the world you're joining tonight's journey from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the smell. It isn't unpleasant exactly, but it certainly isn't familiar. The air is thick with damp earth, smoke from cooking fires, freshly cut grass, and the unmistakable scent of animals living much closer to people than you're accustomed to. Somewhere nearby, ducks chatter noisily while chickens scratch at the dusty ground. You slowly open your eyes. Instead of a bedroom ceiling, rough wooden beams stretch overhead. Instead of a mattress, you're lying on a woven straw mat that feels surprisingly firm beneath your aching back. For a brief moment, you wonder if you're camping. Then you hear voices speaking a language you don't recognize. Children laugh outside. A wooden cart creaks past. Someone bangs a metal pot. Reality settles over you like the cool morning fog. You are no longer in the 21st century. You sit upright cautiously. Your muscles protest immediately. Sleeping on woven straw every night isn't nearly as comfortable as your memory had imagined. A thin blanket rests beside you. It kept away some of the night's chill, but not enough to stop the cool air from creeping into your bones. The tiny house around you is simple. Mud walls, wooden supports, a thatched roof, very little furniture. Everything inside serves a purpose. Nothing exists simply because it looks nice. There are no shelves filled with decorations, no television humming softly in the background, no glowing phone waiting with overnight notifications. In fact, your pockets are completely empty. No phone, no wallet, no watch, no keys. You instinctively reach again, hoping your smartphone somehow escaped reality. Nothing. Even if you had found it, the battery would probably become the world's most expensive paperweight within a day. No electricity means no charging. Congratulations, your survival chances just dropped another little bit. Outside, sunlight begins spilling across the fields. People are already working. You glance toward the doorway. An elderly woman walks past carrying two heavy wooden buckets suspended from a shoulder pole. She moves steadily, despite the obvious weight. Behind her comes a young boy, leading a water buffalo nearly twice his size. Neither appears sleepy. Neither seems rushed. This is simply how mornings begin. Long before sunrise. Every single day. Back home, waking up early often means setting an alarm. Here, nature decides your schedule. The rooster doesn't care whether you stayed up binge-watching documentaries. The sun certainly doesn't wait for anyone. You cautiously step outside. The village slowly comes alive around you. Smoke rises from dozens of small homes. Women prepare breakfast over clay stoves. Farmers shoulder wooden tools before disappearing toward distant fields. Children help with chores instead of preparing backpacks for school. Everyone has something to do. Even the youngest members contribute. The village itself feels alive. Narrow dirt paths weave between houses. Dogs wander freely. Geese patrol puddles with surprising confidence. Cats watch quietly from rooftops. Everywhere you look, people know exactly where they're supposed to be. Except you. Your clothing feels strange. Loose robes made from rough fabric replace your comfortable modern clothes. The sandals protecting your feet offer little cushioning. Within only a few minutes of walking, tiny stones remind you how spoiled modern shoes really are. You suddenly understand something important. You don't know the customs. You don't know the language. You don't know who rules this region. You don't know whether accidentally offending someone carries a small embarrassment or a severe punishment. History books rarely explain how exhausting uncertainty feels. A friendly-looking old man notices your confused expression. He smiles politely. You smile back. At least smiles seem universal. He says something. You blink. He repeats it. Still nothing. You answer with an awkward nod that probably means absolutely nothing in this conversation. Hopefully it wasn't accidentally agreeing to adopt 3 goats. Communication proves surprisingly difficult. You quickly realize surviving isn't only about finding food. It's about understanding people. Ancient societies depend upon shared customs. Everyone knows the proper greetings. Everyone understands respect. Everyone recognizes their place. Except you. And standing out isn't usually a good survival strategy. The morning sun climbs higher. Already you feel thirsty. You look around for bottled water. Of course there isn't any. Instead, water comes from wells, rivers, streams, or carefully stored containers. But drinking untreated water carries risks modern travelers rarely think about. Your stomach, perfectly adapted to modern sanitation, suddenly becomes your weakest ally. One careless drink could leave you desperately ill, and ancient medicine has limited solutions. You begin appreciating something wonderfully boring. Clean tap water. Perhaps civilization peaked with indoor plumbing after all. Nearby, someone offers you a small ceramic cup. Steam curls gently upward. Tea. Warm. Simple. Comforting. Not because it's fashionable, because boiling water helps make it safer to drink. Suddenly, tea becomes less of a relaxing afternoon ritual and more of an important daily habit. Every tiny detail of life serves survival. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is effortless. As you slowly sip the warm drink, you look beyond the village. Mountains rise softly in the distance. Terraced hills stretch toward the horizon. Fields shimmer beneath early sunlight. The landscape is breathtaking. Beautiful enough to belong inside a painting. Yet beneath that beauty lies relentless labor. Every grain of rice, every woven basket, every roof tile, every cup, someone created it by hand. Hours, days, sometimes months of careful work. Machines don't exist to rescue tired muscles. There are no tractors, no electric pumps, no refrigerators preserving food for weeks. Only people, animals, simple tools, and extraordinary patience. You begin realizing that surviving 1 week here isn't about dramatic danger. It's about enduring thousands of small hardships that never truly stop. Your soft hands already notice the rough wooden surfaces. Your feet already ache. Your stomach quietly wonders when breakfast will arrive. And the day has barely begun. You glance once more across the awakening village. Everyone moves with quiet purpose. They don't complain. They simply continue. Because life demands it. As the last traces of morning mist disappear beneath the strengthening sun, you take a slow breath and prepare to follow the villagers into a world whose rhythms have remained unchanged for generations. Whether you're ready or not, ancient China has already begun teaching its first lesson. Survival starts the moment you wake up. The warmth of the tea lingers only briefly. Soon, the cup is empty, and so is your excuse to stand still. Nobody tells you what to do. Nobody needs to. Everyone else is already moving with quiet purpose, and the unspoken expectation is that you will do the same. Standing around would attract attention, and attracting attention is one of the last things you want in ancient China. An elderly farmer gestures for you to follow him. His weathered face is lined with decades of sun, wind, and hard work. He says something you still cannot understand, but the meaning is obvious enough. Come along. You fall into step behind him as the village slowly disappears behind you. The narrow dirt path winds between flooded rice paddies that sparkle beneath the early morning light. Tiny frogs leap into the water as you pass. Dragonflies skim across the surface like little blue arrows. Mist still clings to the distant hills. For a moment, everything feels peaceful. Then your sandal slips into thick mud. Cold water rushes around your foot. The farmer barely notices. He has probably walked these paths every day since childhood. You, meanwhile, are already questioning every life decision that somehow brought you here. The fields stretch farther than you expected. Every patch of land is carefully managed. Nothing is wasted. Every corner has a purpose. Some families tend rice, others grow millet or wheat. Vegetable gardens fill the spaces between homes. Fruit trees provide welcome shade. Even weeds seem to have some practical use. Back home, you might admire a beautiful landscape from the comfort of a car. Here, beautiful landscapes are workplaces. The farmer hands you a simple wooden tool. Its handle is smooth from years of use. He demonstrates a slow scraping motion through the muddy soil. Simple enough. You try to copy him. Within seconds, your balance disappears. Your feet sink deeper into the mud. The farmer politely pretends not to notice. A nearby child definitely notices. He laughs, not cruelly, just honestly. You're fairly certain you've become this morning's entertainment. You continue working anyway. The sun climbs steadily higher. Before long, sweat begins running down your forehead. Your shoulders ache. Your back complains. The wooden tool grows heavier with every passing minute. You glance around, expecting someone else to take a break. Nobody does. The rhythm never stops. Scrape, lift, step, repeat, hour after hour. There are no coffee breaks, no air-conditioned offices, no comfortable chairs waiting nearby, only the endless cycle of work that keeps everyone alive. You finally understand why ancient people developed such incredible physical endurance. They had no alternative. Strength wasn't a hobby. It was survival. As you work, you notice something else. Nobody wastes words. Your feet sink deeper into the mud. The farmer politely pretends not to notice. A nearby child definitely notices. He laughs, not cruelly, just honestly. You're fairly certain you've become this morning's entertainment. You continue working anyway. The sun climbs steadily higher. Before long, sweat begins running down your forehead. Your shoulders ache. Your back complains. The wooden tool grows heavier with every passing minute. You glance around, expecting someone else to take a break. Nobody does. The rhythm never stops. Scrape, lift, step, repeat, hour after hour. There are no coffee breaks, no air-conditioned offices, no comfortable chairs waiting nearby, only the endless cycle of work that keeps everyone alive. You finally understand why ancient people developed such incredible physical endurance. They had no alternative. The weather becomes another invisible ruler. Dark clouds gathering at the wrong moment could ruin weeks of effort. A drought could... There are no weather apps, no satellite forecasts. People read the wind. They study the clouds. They remember seasons from decades earlier. Nature writes the schedule. Humans simply try to keep up. By mid-morning, hunger begins creeping into your thoughts. Breakfast was small, far smaller than you're used to. No sugary cereal, no giant sandwiches, no endless snacks waiting in a kitchen cabinet. Food is valuable. Every grain of rice represents countless hours of labor. Nothing is thrown away. Waste isn't merely frowned upon. It can be dangerous. The farmer finally signals for a short rest. Everyone gathers beneath a broad tree beside the fields. Bundles wrapped in cloth are opened. Simple meals appear. Steamed rice, pickled vegetables, perhaps a little bean paste. For wealthier families, maybe a small portion of fish. For most people, meat remains an occasional luxury rather than a daily expectation. You quietly accept your share. It's surprisingly satisfying. Not because it's extravagant. Because you've earned every bite. Never has plain rice tasted quite so rewarding. The breeze rustles gently through bamboo nearby. Birdsong fills the silence. Nobody rushes the meal. Nobody scrolls through a phone while eating. Nobody checks emails. There aren't any. The world feels strangely slower. Not easier. Just slower. Time follows the rhythm of sunlight instead of digital clocks. As the meal ends, everyone rises almost immediately. The break is over. Work resumes. Your legs protest the instant you stand. Muscles you didn't even know existed begin introducing themselves. You silently calculate how many more days remain in this imaginary week. Then you remember. This is only the first full morning. Suddenly, surviving 7 days sounds wildly optimistic. The farmer notices your exhausted expression. He offers a small smile, not mocking, encouraging. To him, today's work isn't extraordinary. It's simply Tuesday, or whatever the ancient equivalent of Tuesday happens to be. That realization is strangely humbling. Generations before modern machines, before engines, before electricity, ordinary people built entire civilizations through patient, repetitive effort, stone by stone, seed by seed, season after season. The comforts of your own world suddenly feel miraculous. Running water, soft beds, washing machines, central heating, shoes with cushioned soles. Things you rarely think about suddenly become priceless luxuries. The afternoon sun grows warmer. The shadows shorten. The fields shimmer beneath the bright sky. You tighten your grip on the wooden tool one more time. If you truly hope to survive a week in ancient China, there is only one choice. Keep working. Because in this world, the land rewards effort, and it has very little patience for anyone who cannot keep up. The morning's work finally comes to a pause, not because everyone is tired. Everyone is tired. But because the sun has climbed high enough to remind the village that people cannot work forever on an empty stomach. The farmer quietly places his wooden tool against the fence. You eagerly do the same. Your shoulders sigh with relief. Your hands are already beginning to develop tiny blisters. Your legs feel heavier than they did only a few hours ago. And somehow, the day is still young. The walk back toward the village feels slower than before, not because the distance has changed, because your body has. Every step reminds you that modern life has made walking on smooth sidewalks feel effortless. Ancient dirt roads tell a different story. Dust clings to your sandals. Tiny stones find every weak spot beneath your feet. You begin appreciating cushioned sneakers more than you ever thought possible. As you approach the village, delicious aromas drift through the warm afternoon air. Wood smoke, steamed rice, fresh vegetables, a hint of ginger, perhaps garlic. Your stomach immediately pays attention. Food here isn't designed to impress guests. It's designed to keep people alive. Several women stand beside clay stoves, carefully stirring large pots over open fires. The flames crackle softly beneath blackened cooking pots that have probably served the same family for generations. Nothing is shiny. Nothing is new. Everything shows the marks of long, practical use. A young boy carefully carries a bucket of water from the village well. Not a drop spills. Water is precious. Every trip to the well requires time and effort. There are no kitchen faucets, no refrigerator ice dispensers, no endless supply waiting behind a metal handle. Every cup matters. You are invited to sit on a simple wooden stool beside a family preparing lunch. Nobody speaks much. Meals are moments of quiet appreciation rather than hurried conversation. Small ceramic bowls are placed before everyone. Steam rises gently. White rice fills most of the bowl. Beside it sits a handful of leafy greens, lightly seasoned with salt. A few slices of tofu, some pickled vegetables. Today this is considered a good meal. If fortune smiles upon the family, there may even be a tiny piece of dried fish to share. But only a tiny one. Meat remains expensive. Animals provide labor before they provide dinner. A water buffalo is far more valuable pulling a plow than resting on someone's plate. You pick up the bamboo chopsticks, or rather you attempt to. Within moments, a single piece of vegetable slips neatly back into the bowl. Then another. The young child sitting beside you quietly masters every bite with effortless grace. Meanwhile, you are losing a battle against one stubborn piece of cabbage. Nobody laughs. At least not openly. Still, you're fairly certain your chopstick technique has become today's second source of village entertainment. Eventually, you succeed. One bite at a time. Slowly, patiently. The rice surprises you. Without heavy sauces or rich seasonings, its natural flavor becomes far more noticeable. Every grain represents months of labor. You suddenly understand why wasting food would seem almost unthinkable. Every meal begins long before the cooking starts. It begins in muddy fields, under the hot sun, with aching backs and countless hours of careful work. Nothing reaches the table by accident. As everyone eats, the conversation remains calm. Grandparents quietly exchange stories. Parents discuss tomorrow's work. Children listen more than they speak. Respect flows naturally through the family. Age carries wisdom. Experience earns quiet admiration. You realize something else. Nobody eats while walking. Nobody scrolls through distractions. Nobody rushes back to work before finishing. The meal itself becomes part of the day's rhythm. Simple, steady. peaceful. Once lunch ends, the bowls are carefully cleaned, not because someone enjoys washing dishes, because every bowl must last. Ceramic isn't easily replaced. A cracked bowl might remain in use for years. Repairing objects is simply part of everyday life. Throwing things away is a luxury few people can afford. Nearby, an elderly grandmother begins preparing vegetables for tomorrow. Nothing waits until the last minute. Every task blends into the next. There is always another chore, always another responsibility. You glance toward the cooking fire. Smoke slowly escapes through the roof. Your eyes begin watering. Modern kitchens have quietly spoiled you. Ventilation fans, gas stoves, electric ovens, microwaves. Ancient cooking demands patience, and occasionally, watery eyes. Outside, several chickens wander hopefully beneath the tables, searching for dropped grains of rice. They find almost nothing. People here simply do not waste food. Even leftovers have a purpose. Some feed animals. Others become tomorrow's meal. Very little disappears without reason. As the afternoon grows warmer, villagers briefly rest beneath the shade of large trees, not sleeping, simply sitting, watching, listening. The breeze carries the gentle rustling of bamboo leaves. Somewhere nearby, a flute begins playing a slow, peaceful melody. The sound drifts softly across the village, like the wind itself. For just a moment, you forget your aching muscles. You forget your sore feet. The world becomes wonderfully quiet. Then a rooster crows again. The break is over. People begin standing. Tools are collected. Work resumes. You stare at the wooden hoe, waiting patiently beside the path. Surely there can't be more. There is. There is always more. Fields must be weeded. Water channels checked. Firewood gathered. Animals fed. Repairs completed. Ancient life doesn't divide neatly into work hours and free hours. Life itself is the work. As you rise once again, your body protests louder than before. Yet everyone around you simply keeps moving. Not because they enjoy exhaustion, because survival leaves very little room for negotiation. You dust the dirt from your robe, take one slow breath, and follow the others back toward the shimmering rice fields. The afternoon sun waits for no one. Neither does ancient China. The afternoon sun feels warmer than it did only an hour ago. Lunch is already becoming a distant memory. The brief rest beneath the shade of the bamboo trees has done little to restore your aching muscles. Instead, it has simply reminded your body how tired it truly is. Still, no one lingers. The farmer lifts his wooden hoe. The others gather baskets, ropes, and bundles of seedlings. Without a word, the entire village begins drifting back toward the fields once again. You quietly follow. The path feels longer now, not because it has changed, but because your legs have. Every step sends a gentle ache through your calves. Your shoulders still remember the morning's labor. Your palms sting each time they brush against the rough wooden handle of the farming tool. Back home, soreness often means a day off. Here, soreness simply means yesterday happened. The rice paddies shimmer beneath the afternoon sun, like thousands of tiny mirrors. Water reflects the clouds drifting lazily across the sky. From a distance, the landscape appears almost peaceful enough to belong inside a painting. Up close, it is endless work. The farmer motions toward a row of young rice plants. Small weeds have begun appearing between them. If left alone, they will steal nutrients from the crop. So every unwanted plant must be removed by hand. One at a time. You kneel carefully in the warm mud. The earth is soft beneath your knees. Tiny insects buzz lazily through the humid air. Dragonflies dart across the water. A small frog leaps away as your hand reaches into the mud. The work itself is surprisingly simple. Grab the weed, pull gently. Shake away the mud, move to the next one. Repeat. Again, and again, and again. After the first 10 minutes, it almost feels relaxing. After the first hour, not quite so much. Your back begins complaining first, then your knees, then your neck. You try stretching. It helps for perhaps 3 seconds. The farmer beside you never seems to stop. His movements remain slow, steady, almost effortless. Years of repetition have made every motion efficient. Nothing is wasted, not energy, not movement, not time. You, on the other hand, have already managed to splash muddy water across your robe twice. A nearby child notices. He smiles politely. Apparently, you've become the village's favorite source of harmless amusement. The afternoon grows quieter. Conversation fades. Only the sounds of nature remain. Water trickling through irrigation channels. Birds calling from distant trees. The soft rustle of bamboo leaves. Wooden tools scraping against damp earth. Occasionally, someone hums an old melody while they work. It drifts gently across the fields before disappearing into the breeze. Without phones, without engines, without constant noise, the countryside has its own soundtrack. It is surprisingly peaceful, until a mosquito discovers you. Then another. Then several more. You wave your hands. They ignore your efforts completely. Modern insect repellent suddenly feels like one of humanity's greatest inventions. The villagers barely react. Perhaps they've grown accustomed to it, or perhaps they simply have more important things to worry about. Either way, the mosquitoes appear delighted to welcome their newest visitor. The heat continues building. Sweat rolls slowly down your forehead. Your robe clings uncomfortably to your back. There are no portable fans, no ice-cold bottles of water waiting nearby. Only a wooden bucket standing beneath the shade of a tree. Everyone drinks carefully. No one wastes a drop. The farmer takes a single cup, then quietly passes it along. You do the same. The water feels wonderfully cool, simple, refreshing, enough to keep going. That seems to be the goal, not luxury, just enough. As the afternoon wears on, you begin noticing how deeply connected everyone is to the rhythm of nature. Clouds matter. Wind matters. The position of the sun matters. Even the songs of certain birds seem to tell experienced farmers something about the changing seasons. Generations have learned to read the landscape in ways your modern eyes simply cannot. A sudden breeze carries the scent of approaching rain. Several farmers glance toward the horizon. Dark clouds slowly gather beyond the distant hills. No one panics. Instead, everyone quietly works a little faster. Rain can be helpful. Rain can also become destructive. Nature offers no guarantees. You look at your own hands. This morning they were soft. Now thin streaks of mud fill every crease. Small blisters have become larger. Your fingernails are stained with earth. Your arms feel pleasantly heavy. Strangely, you're beginning to understand something. The work itself isn't meant to be enjoyable. It isn't punishment either. It is simply necessary. Every harvest depends upon thousands of ordinary moments exactly like this one. No grand speeches, no dramatic victories. Just patient effort repeated every single day. The first drops of rain begin falling, soft, gentle, barely enough to notice. The surface of the paddies ripples with tiny circles. Within minutes, the air becomes cooler. The villagers smile. Some continue working without hesitation. Others cover baskets with woven mats. No one runs for shelter. Rain belongs here. It is simply another part of life. You tilt your face toward the sky. The cool droplets wash away the dust from your forehead. For the first time today, the heat eases. The moment feels unexpectedly peaceful. You stand quietly beside the flooded fields as gentle rain falls across the ancient countryside. Mist slowly begins forming once again among the distant mountains. The entire landscape softens beneath the gray afternoon sky. It is beautiful, almost unbelievably beautiful. And yet, you cannot forget the aching muscles beneath your robe. Beauty and hardship live side by side here. One cannot exist without the other. The rain finally slows. The farmer straightens his back and quietly nods toward the remaining rows of rice. There is still work to finish before evening. Of course there is. In ancient China, the sun may set eventually, but the work always seems to find one more reason to continue. The rain clouds slowly drift away. Golden sunlight breaks through the gray sky, casting long, shimmering reflections across the flooded rice paddies. For a brief moment, the entire countryside glows as though every blade of grass has been polished. The villagers barely pause to admire it. Beautiful weather is still working weather. You follow the farmer back toward the village, expecting the day's labor to finally come to an end. Instead, he turns onto another narrow path, leading toward a cluster of larger wooden buildings. These homes immediately feel different. Their walls are stronger. Their roofs are covered with carefully arranged tiles instead of simple thatch. Bright red banners hang near the entrance. Several horses stand tied outside. The atmosphere changes the moment you arrive. People straighten their backs. Conversations become quieter. Children stop running. Even the village dogs seem less adventurous. The farmer lowers his eyes slightly. You instinctively do the same. Someone important is nearby. A small group of officials emerges from one of the buildings. Their robes are cleaner than anyone else's. Their hats are carefully shaped. Each carries bamboo scrolls tucked beneath one arm. None appear particularly hurried. Authority rarely needs to rush. The villagers quietly gather. Nobody has been invited. Everyone simply knows they are expected to be present. You stand near the back, hoping not to attract attention. One official begins reading from a bamboo scroll. The words mean nothing to you, but the reactions around you say everything. Some villagers nod, others quietly sigh. A few exchange worried glances. When the reading ends, families begin stepping forward one by one. Baskets of grain, bundles of cloth, jars of oil. Each household offers part of its harvest. At first, it looks almost like a market. Then you realize what you're watching. Taxes, not paid with money, paid with the products of months of exhausting labor. The official carefully records each family's contribution. Every basket, every measure of grain, every woven cloth. Nothing escapes his attention. Writing itself feels almost magical here. Only a small number of people possess the education needed to read and write fluently. Those skills bring enormous responsibility and considerable power. The bamboo slips click softly together as each record is tied neatly with cord. Paper exists in only limited forms during much of ancient history. Bamboo remains practical, heavy, but reliable. You glance toward the growing collection of grain. Each sack represents endless mornings in muddy fields, endless afternoons beneath the hot sun, endless evenings repairing tools and preparing for tomorrow. Watching it leave the village feels strangely emotional. Yet nobody argues. The empire depends upon taxes, roads, granaries, soldiers, officials. All require support. The system reaches even this quiet farming community. An elderly man approaches carrying only a very small basket. His harvest has clearly been poor. The official studies the contents carefully. For several uncomfortable moments, nobody speaks. Finally, after a brief conversation, the official writes another note upon his bamboo slips. The old man bows deeply. Relief washes across his face. Perhaps mercy has been granted, or perhaps another arrangement has been made. Whatever happened, everyone seems grateful the conversation remained calm. You quietly realize how uncertain life can become when every harvest depends upon weather. A flood, a drought, an illness. Any one of them could threaten an entire family's survival. There are no crop insurance forms, no emergency bank loans. Nature often decides everything. Nearby, another official carefully inspects measuring containers. Accuracy matters. Too little collected weakens the empire. Too much collected weakens the village. Maintaining balance is never easy. The bureaucracy stretches across enormous distances. Messages travel slowly. Officials rely upon careful records rather than instant communication. Every bamboo slip becomes part of a much larger story connecting villages, towns, provinces, and the imperial court far beyond the horizon. You cannot see the emperor. You will probably never meet him. Yet his presence is everywhere. In the laws people obey, in the taxes they pay, in the roads they travel. Even here, surrounded by peaceful rice fields, the empire quietly shapes daily life. As the afternoon continues, another surprise awaits. Several young men arrive carrying bundles of freshly woven silk. The official examines each piece with remarkable attention. He runs careful fingers across the fabric, checks its weave, measures its quality. Silk is precious. Far more than beautiful clothing. It represents trade, wealth, diplomacy, an entire industry built upon astonishing patience. Tiny silkworms, mulberry leaves, delicate threads carefully gathered by skilled hands, months of effort transformed into cloth lighter than air. You gently touch one folded piece. It feels unbelievably smooth. Nothing in the village resembles it. Luxury and hardship somehow exist side by side within the same world. Nearby, children watch the officials with wide eyes. Perhaps one dreams of becoming a scholar someday. Education offers one of the few paths toward a very different life. Learning characters, studying classics, passing difficult examinations. The journey would demand years of discipline. But for those who succeed, new opportunities await. The farmer beside you quietly smiles at his young son. The boy smiles back. Perhaps that dream has already begun. As the officials prepare to leave, horses are loaded with records, supplies, and collected goods. The village bows respectfully. Soon the riders disappear beyond the winding road. Dust rises behind them before slowly settling back onto the earth. Almost immediately, the atmosphere changes. Children begin laughing once again. Neighbors resume conversations. Someone starts repairing a broken fence. Life quietly returns to normal. You take one last look toward the distant road. It is strange how powerful people can influence your life without ever truly knowing your name. The empire may feel impossibly vast, but here in one small village, its reach is impossible to escape. And tomorrow the fields will still be waiting. Evening arrives almost without warning. One moment, the rice fields shimmer beneath the golden light of the setting sun. The next, long shadows begin stretching across the narrow dirt paths that wind between the homes. The air cools ever so slightly. A gentle breeze carries the scent of damp earth, wood smoke, and freshly cooked rice. The village slowly changes its rhythm. The endless labor of the day gives way to the quieter work of home. Nobody truly finishes working. The tasks simply become different. You walk beside the farmer as he returns through the familiar village gate. Children who spent the afternoon helping in the fields now gather bundles of firewood. Young girls carry baskets of vegetables toward their homes. Elderly grandparents sit outside, weaving baskets or repairing clothing by fading sunlight. Every member of the family contributes. Age changes the task. It never removes it. You notice something remarkable. Very few people appear alone. Life revolves around the family, parents, children, grandparents. Sometimes several generations live beneath one roof. Privacy as you understand it barely exists. A home is not simply a place to sleep. It is a place where everyone shares responsibilities. You duck beneath the low doorway of the family's house. The familiar straw mat still waits on the floor. The clay stove glows softly as dinner cooks. Simple wooden bowls have already been arranged. Nothing fancy, nothing unnecessary. Everything has its place. The youngest child carefully wipes each bowl with a clean cloth before setting it down. His older sister quietly folds blankets for the coming night. No one needs to remind them. These routines have become part of everyday life since childhood. Outside, chickens wander back into their small enclosure. The family dog curls beside the doorway. Somewhere beyond the village, a cow lets out one final low call before darkness settles across the fields. Even the animals seem to understand that night is approaching. The farmer's wife begins serving the evening meal. Tonight looks much like lunch. Steamed rice, seasonal vegetables, a small bowl of bean soup, a few slices of pickled radish. Simple food, warm food, comforting food. You realize something surprising. Although the meals rarely change, they never feel disappointing. After a full day of labor, almost anything warm tastes wonderful. Conversation begins quietly. Grandfather tells a story about a harvest many years ago when floods nearly destroyed the village. The children listen with complete attention. No television competes for their focus. No glowing screens interrupt the moment. Only voices, only memories. Stories become entertainment, history, education, and family tradition all at once. You cannot understand the exact words, but you understand the feeling. Laughter appears at familiar moments. Everyone smiles. Some lessons never require translation. After dinner, the bowls are washed immediately. Water is carried outside. Ash from the cooking fire is carefully collected. Nothing useful is wasted. Even leftover vegetable scraps are saved for animals. The rhythm of the household continues with quiet efficiency. The farmer inspects tomorrow's tools. A wooden handle has begun to crack. He patiently wraps it with fresh cord. Another tool needs sharpening. A woven basket has lost one of its reeds. It too receives careful repair. Buying replacements is rarely possible. Maintaining what you own is simply part of surviving. You kneel beside him, watching skilled hands work by fading daylight. Every movement is calm, unhurried. Years of experience have taught him that rushing often creates more problems than it solves. Outside, neighbors begin visiting one another, not for loud parties, not for celebrations, simply to talk. Someone shares news from a nearby village. Another mentions a wedding planned after the harvest. An elderly woman exchanges herbal remedies with a friend whose grandson caught a cold. Community quietly weaves itself together through hundreds of ordinary conversations. You suddenly realize how much people depend upon one another. Without nearby stores, without hospitals, without delivery services, neighbors become one another's greatest resource. Darkness slowly spreads across the countryside. Oil lamps flicker to life inside the homes. Their soft yellow glow reaches only a few feet into each room. Beyond that, shadows quietly take over. Night here feels genuinely dark. There are no streetlights, no glowing cities on the horizon. The stars slowly emerge one by one. Soon the entire sky sparkles with thousands of brilliant points of light. Without modern light pollution, the heavens appear almost unbelievably bright. You step outside for a moment. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a pale river. Crickets begin their evening chorus. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls from the forest. The entire world feels slower, quieter, almost timeless. For a brief moment, you forget the sore muscles. You forget the blistered hands. You simply stand beneath the stars. Then the cool night air reminds you of another reality. There is no central heating. Winter nights would be bitterly cold. Even summer evenings carry a chill after sunset. The family quietly closes the wooden shutters. The small house traps as much warmth as possible. Blankets are spread across the straw mats. Everyone prepares for sleep surprisingly early. Tomorrow begins before sunrise. Again, you lower yourself onto the woven mat. It feels no softer than it did last night. Your back already knows exactly what to expect. Outside, the last voices fade. The village slowly falls silent. Only insects continue their endless song. You close your eyes. Your entire body feels wonderfully exhausted, not the tiredness that comes from sitting behind a desk. The deeper kind. The kind earned through honest labor beneath open skies. Tomorrow promises another sunrise, another field, another lesson. And somehow, you suspect ancient China has only begun showing you just how difficult surviving a single week can truly be. Before the first hint of sunrise reaches the horizon, you are awake once again, not because you slept well. The woven straw mat is still as firm as ever, and your back reminds you of every hour you spent bending over the rice fields yesterday. Instead, you wake because the village wakes. A rooster calls from somewhere beyond the wooden walls. A dog barks once before settling down again. The soft crackle of a cooking fire begins in the neighboring house. Another day has already started. You stretch carefully. Every muscle feels slightly stiffer than yesterday. Your hands are rougher now. The blisters have hardened into small calluses. You are slowly changing, not enough to belong here, but enough to survive a little longer. After another simple breakfast of warm rice porridge and tea, the farmer smiles and gestures toward the road instead of the fields. For the first time since arriving, today will be different. You are going to the market. The village path gradually widens into a well-traveled road. More people begin appearing with every step. Some lead donkeys carrying woven baskets. Others push wooden carts filled with vegetables, grain, clay pots, or bundles of firewood. Everyone seems to be bringing something. Trade is the heartbeat of the countryside. Without it, villages could never obtain the goods they cannot produce themselves. As the morning mist slowly lifts, the market town comes into view. Even from a distance, you hear it before you see it. Voices, laughter, Animals, merchants calling out their goods, wooden wheels rumbling across packed earth. Compared to the peaceful village, the marketplace feels almost overwhelming. You pass beneath a simple wooden gate. Immediately, every direction offers something new to admire. Rows of stalls stretch along narrow streets. Colorful silk hangs beside rough linen. Fresh vegetables sit neatly arranged beside baskets overflowing with herbs. Potters display rows of carefully shaped bowls and jars. Blacksmiths hammer glowing iron into useful tools. The air carries dozens of different smells. Fresh bread, steamed buns, tea, incense, smoke from charcoal fires, the faint sweetness of ripe fruit. For a moment you forget that this is supposed to be about survival. The market feels wonderfully alive. A merchant proudly lifts a bolt of brilliant red silk. Sunlight dances across its smooth surface. Nearby, another carefully measures fragrant tea leaves with a small bronze scoop. Further along, a carpenter displays beautifully carved wooden stools, boxes, and cabinets. Everything has been made by hand. No factories, no machines, only remarkable patience and extraordinary skill. The farmer leads you through the crowded streets with surprising confidence. Clearly, he has walked this route many times before. He stops at a grain merchant's stall. A brief conversation follows. Careful bargaining begins. No prices appear on signs. Every purchase depends upon discussion, respect, experience, sometimes even friendship. Eventually, both men smile. A deal has been reached. The exchange feels less like shopping and more like a conversation built upon trust. Nearby, children chase one another between the stalls. A traveling musician plays a bamboo flute, while another beats a small drum. The melody rises above the busy crowd, giving the marketplace its own unique rhythm. You notice people from many different places. Their clothing varies slightly. Some accents sound unfamiliar, even to the villagers around you. Trade has quietly connected distant communities long before modern highways existed. One merchant proudly displays spices from lands far beyond the mountains. Another sells beautifully polished jade ornaments. A third offers delicate paper fans. Every stall tells a story of countless journeys. As you continue exploring, something catches your attention. A storyteller has gathered a small crowd. Children sit cross-legged near the front. Adults stand quietly behind them. With dramatic gestures and animated expressions, he tells a tale of ancient heroes, clever scholars, and wise emperors. Even without understanding every word, you recognize the power of a good story. Long before movies, long before television, stories traveled from mouth to mouth. They entertained. They educated. They preserved history. The farmer gently taps your shoulder. There is more to see. You arrive at the livestock section of the market. Chickens cluck noisily inside woven cages. Goats tug impatiently against ropes. A pair of sturdy oxen stands calmly beneath the shade. These animals represent wealth. Buying one could transform a family's future. Losing one could threaten it. Nothing here is casual. Every purchase carries real consequences. As the sun climbs higher, the market becomes even busier. You instinctively reach toward your empty pocket, remembering how easy modern shopping can be. Credit cards, digital payments, online orders. None of that exists here. Every exchange requires face-to-face conversation. Every agreement depends upon honesty and reputation. Without trust, trade becomes impossible. Suddenly, a loud voice rises above the crowd. A merchant argues with a customer over the quality of a clay jar. Several people gather to watch. The disagreement lasts only a few minutes before another respected merchant quietly steps between them. After a brief discussion, both sides nod. The crowd disperses. Business continues. You are struck by how quickly everyday life returns to normal. The market cannot afford long interruptions. There is too much work to do. Too many goods to sell. Too many people depending upon one another. Before leaving, the farmer purchases one final item. A small bundle of herbal medicine, nothing dramatic, simply dried leaves and roots carefully wrapped in cloth. Even healthy families prepare for illness whenever possible. Life offers few guarantees. The road home feels quieter. The baskets are heavier now. The village lies waiting beyond the distant rice fields. As the bustling sounds of the marketplace slowly fade behind you, one thought lingers in your mind. The market is far more than a place to buy and sell. It is where the entire world of ancient China briefly comes together. Before everyone returns to the ordinary work that keeps civilization alive, the market disappears behind you little by little. The cheerful voices of merchants fade into the distance. The music of bamboo flutes becomes softer with every step. Soon, only the gentle rustle of rice fields and the steady rhythm of sandals on the dusty road remain. The baskets the farmer carries are noticeably heavier now. Tea leaves, a few precious herbs, fresh vegetables, several small household supplies, nothing extravagant, everything necessary. By the time you reach the village, the afternoon sun is beginning to sink once again. The air feels warm but peaceful. You imagine the evening will pass much like yesterday. A simple dinner, quiet conversation, a good night's rest. Ancient China, however, has another lesson waiting. As you approach one of the houses, you notice something unusual. Several villagers stand quietly outside the doorway. Nobody speaks loudly. Their faces are calm but serious. An elderly woman carries a woven basket filled with fresh herbs. Another person holds a small clay jar. The atmosphere immediately tells you something is wrong. Someone inside is ill. You step carefully into the small house. A young man lies on a woven mat beneath a thin blanket. His forehead glistens with sweat. His breathing is slow. His mother gently presses a cool cloth against his face. The room smells different from the others. Instead of fresh rice and wood smoke, the air carries the sharp scent of dried roots, medicinal herbs, and boiling plants. The village healer arrives quietly. Unlike the grand physicians you may imagine from modern hospitals, this healer carries only a wooden box. Inside are neatly wrapped herbs, small ceramic jars, bundles of dried flowers, simple wooden tools. Years of knowledge fit inside one humble container. Everyone bows respectfully. The healer kneels beside the patient without saying very much. First comes observation. He studies the young man's face, his eyes, his breathing. Then he gently takes the patient's wrist. For several long moments, he simply feels the pulse. You watch with curiosity. In ancient Chinese medicine, the pulse tells an experienced healer many things. Its speed, its strength, its rhythm. Each subtle difference offers clues about what may be happening inside the body. There are no blood tests, no x-rays, no thermometers, only careful observation developed through generations of experience. The healer quietly asks several questions. The family answers respectfully. When did the fever begin? Has he been eating? Has he been coughing? Did he work in the rain? Each answer helps build the picture. Finally, the healer opens one of his cloth bundles. Dried herbs fill the room with an earthy fragrance. Some leaves are crushed carefully by hand, others are added whole into a clay pot filled with water. Soon, the mixture begins to boil over the cooking fire. Steam slowly fills the room. You cannot help wondering what modern medicine would make of these remedies. Some herbs used in ancient times truly contained helpful compounds. Others offered little more than hope. The villagers, however, trust the healer completely. For them, he represents knowledge gathered across countless generations. Outside the house, life continues quietly. Children speak more softly than usual. Neighbors bring extra firewood. One woman leaves a basket of vegetables by the doorway before quietly walking away. No payment is expected. Helping one another during illness is simply what good neighbors do. The farmer beside you quietly explains through gestures that sickness affects everyone. If one family struggles, the village shares the burden whenever possible. Without modern hospitals, community becomes the strongest medicine of all. As evening approaches, the healer carefully pours the dark herbal drink into a small ceramic bowl. The patient slowly drinks. The taste is probably bitter. Judging by his expression, very bitter. Yet nobody complains. Medicine is rarely expected to be pleasant. The healer then lights several sticks of fragrant herbs. Soft smoke curls gently through the room. The calming scent mixes with the aroma of boiling tea. For a moment, the small house feels peaceful despite the uncertainty. You step outside to allow the family some privacy. The cool evening breeze feels refreshing after the warm room. An elderly villager sits beside you beneath a large tree. He smiles kindly. Though words still fail you, the silence feels comfortable. Sometimes companionship requires no translation. As darkness slowly settles across the countryside, tiny lanterns begin glowing inside nearby homes. Some villagers quietly ask about the sick young man. Others offer prayers for his recovery. Life and illness have always walked closely together. In your own world, a fever often means visiting a clinic. Here, it may determine the future of an entire family. The following morning arrives. Before breakfast, several villagers quietly visit the house again. The young man's fever has eased. His breathing sounds stronger. A small smile spreads across his mother's face. The healer simply nods. He accepts no dramatic praise. Helping others is part of his calling. Whether the herb